Hi, watching a very special recording of Agenda Warning right here in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. First time that the World Economic Forum for ASEAN, the regional level, is here. And it's very fitting because sometimes we in ASEAN tend to only glamorize maybe the top 4 countries, but more and more we have to be inclusive, and we are only as strong as our weakest link. So there should be no weakest link now, inclusivity in our own way. But there's this thing about the digital economy. We're talking about fourth industrial revolution, industry 4.0. Some say that we're still at 3.0. Some say that some areas is still at 2.0. But all on top of that, we are saying more and more here for the second day of World Economic Forum today that it's not just the role of government, the private sector can play more. Even the big new entity called AIIB, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, saying that they want to look at social mobility through economic infrastructure investment, and that can release government to look at other stuff. So how can the private sector play a better role in the digital economy for ASEAN? Sitting beside me, thank you so much for making time, Verena Xiao, the Vice President and Managing Director for Strategic Conglomerates for Southeast Asia. Now, before I get Verena to explain what is strategic conglomerates, let's get her view, because even for Esrawani, we're seeing ourselves as a digital media channel now, and we've been talking to SAP, especially for digital and data-based journalism. So if I can get your view on the outlay of digital economy and ASEAN.
Thanks Harold, for this opportunity. So from the SAP's perspective, digital economy means how companies can leverage on digital technologies like what you just mentioned, big data, etc., to harness and to innovate and change the way they do business today. As you know, there's a lot of talk about how the new companies that just came out in the last few years, Uber, B2B is present today, and these companies didn't even exist, 10 years ago. So how do traditional companies and conglomerates, especially in ASEAN, deal with that, with this disruption? The only way they can deal with that is they also initiate and drive the disruption by leveraging on technologies and innovation, such that today I think a lot of companies, even traditional companies, have to become digital companies or technology companies in order to survive in the economy where everything is open, social media is available everywhere, and as a way to participate and also to be competitive.
I think SAP gave me this in the email, the statistic that contribution by top 40 conglomerates estimated to be more than 20% of the combined ASEAN GDP in 2015 in the Deloitte report. So how do we put that into perspective? Maybe if I can reset the thinking a bit. For example, if we take the journey of SAP, when I was starting out as a journalist way back in the last century, SAP is more of like servers and systems and stuff. But I'm sure SAP now looks at itself as a digital economy entity and player service provider. So maybe you can narrate through that journey, and then we go to that strategic conglomerate.
Yeah, definitely. So a little bit about the figures we just gave is, and this is exactly why SAP is focused on conglomerates, because they are a key driver of ASEAN economies, and especially in ASEAN, you find a lot of family-run conglomerates. So we expect by 2020, approximately 25% of the GDP in ASEAN will be driven by the conglomerates. Yeah, and as part of that, we have a digital framework whereby to enable conglomerates and of course companies in general to embark on the digital journey, because end of the day it is a journey. Transformation is a journey. It's not like you wave a magic wand, one day you're a traditional company, the next day you are digital ready. It's a journey and it takes a process. So at the core, and as you say, SAP has invested significant amount of investment to ensure that we can enable and have the end-to-end platform for companies to go on the digital journey. At the core of it, as you may know, SAP is known for what we call an ERP company, software company for a long time. We have we have innovated there, and we have launched some years back SAP has for HANA, which forms as a digital core and a platform for companies to start on their digital transformation journey. But as part of that, we also have to take into consideration 4 other pillars. One is, and as we spoke briefly, one is very clearly the workforce. How do you enable your workforce to empower them and upskill them to be able to cope with the new reality today? Okay. Number 2 is also how do we support companies to better engage and transform the way they engage with the customers and channels. The 4th area is how we also empower the change in IoT and supply chain to move them forward. And the fourth pillar would be how would they manage their procurement better, because we have found that there's quite a lot of significant ways, especially conglomerates in procurement, and if they can find a way to streamline it, that will bring significant savings. Yeah, so it's not just about digital, everything sounds very cool, but it's also really about driving efficiencies and savings in that digital transformation process.
Strategic conglomerates actually look at maybe mostly brick and mortar, big companies,
very traditional companies,
and how to move them to the new ones. I'm sure there's a lot of challenges there. Rather than look at it from a 4-pillar, I guess I want to look at it as, first of all, though you can bring the horse to water, but how to make it drink. So how do you go and make a value proposition to the big conglomerates? Because I guess if you're a big conglomerate, you know that the digital is here.
Yes.
But whether you embrace it is totally different point of view altogether. So how do you see that part? Because family-owned entities especially, and we have lots of that in ASEAN,
yes,
there's a problem of a generational gap also. You know, in some, succession plan is clear. In some others, you know, there's a debate in how they should proceed. But I guess you have to cut through all that. And I'll go for the first break, but once we are back, maybe you can start in the value proposition for ASEAN's traditional conglomerates to move into the new era of digital economy. And if you take them in a big strategic approach, then you need not have the messy part of changing one thing by one thing and then finding that they're not really talking to one another. It must be a holistic approach.
Agreed, Aaron. So happy to talk more about that.
Right after this short break. You're still watching a very special recording of Agenda 1 right here in Phnom Penh, Cambodia for the ASEAN regional level of World Economic Forum discussions, and it's the first time in Cambodia. So we're talking about digital economy here, but there's so many aspects to digital economy. One clear fact in ASEAN is that we have many big companies, conglomerates, and otherwise that are family-owned. It's a mom and pop's business before, and they move up and they expand, and now it runs into the fourth industrial revolution. Company like Verena's company, SAP, looks at the total solution, if I can put it that way, to give value proposition for companies to move and ease. It need not be a blood on the floor kind of transition, right? It can be a transition where you move into it holistically.
Yeah, thanks, Haran. So I think that's a very good point you raised. Traditional companies such as family-run conglomerates especially have faced several challenges in this digital economy. So first of all of them realize there is a digital disruption going on. They read the news, they come across that in their business, they are being affected by it. That's something I would think majority of them acknowledge. Smaller companies are more nimble, move faster, and in taking advantage of opportunities than these companies that, although like you say, were formerly mom and pop companies, they are not very large companies. You know, they're very complex as well. So they are challenged by the speed that the economy and these smaller competitors are moving nowadays. So, in fact, what we consider the strengths of such conglomerates, whereby they have easy access to capital and they have leadership positions in in their traditional areas, and most of them are still very much in economies like commodities and manufacturing, can actually become a burden for them to embrace the digital world. So how can we help them? Yep. So firstly, I think we have to acknowledge that it is a journey, like I mentioned earlier, and the approach needs to be customized for each conglomerate. And that's why we are focused on the most strategic and top conglomerates and work with them very closely on their digital transformation roadmap. Some of them may decide to start with HR, for example, workforce. How do we ensure that their workforce, a lot of them, for example, in manufacturing, are upskill and learn new skills to move forward with the digital economy? And we have a learning platform and a digital platform that enable them to go on to end-to-end journey from recruitment to the end of for the entire workforce life cycle.
So,
as an example.
I'm sorry to interject, but I'm a bit old. So, in the old days, when you say system integration, software solution, it's just that, right? But now you're talking about online learning and courseware, right? If I get that right, that HR thing of a transitional thing of reskilling and retraining, all that is now provided in one package. Is that what you're saying?
We have a platform, but they can pick the approach. Even for HR, it can be customized, right? So for example, some of them have challenges in recruiting, for example, the right workforce, so the right skill set. So we can also help with the recruiting process, and we actually have artificial intelligence built into our HR solutions called Success Factors, whereby you can help to screen suitable candidates for them. So this is just one area.
So even from the digital data alone, AI will help the traditional businesses and conglomerates of ASEAN through screening and recommendations and filtering.
Yes, because and a lot of them realize the importance of having the right workforce and talent in order to move to the next stage. I think that's something they all recognize that. And like you say earlier, what's important in ASEAN is really the connectivity amongst people and the feel of belonging. So they do recognize that employee engagement is key. And as we've heard, right, generally the workforce in ASEAN is relatively younger than other regions, For the millennials, they're all used to using Facebook, Instagram, and they really are looking for that digital connectivity in the workplace as well, that they get experience in their personal life. So having such tools are important to help these conglomerates, leapfrog into the digital economy. So this is just one area that we can choose to tailor-made the digital journey for a conglomerate. The other way is to reimagine and rethink about the business model they're in, right? How can they better engage with the customers they have, and also with the channels that they are distributing? That is key for them, and even for those that are very much in the B2B space, the connection with the end consumer is important. They have looked at the overall omni-channel experience as well, because now consumers have access not just to what's in the newspaper, but also in social media. There's a lot of nowadays we have learned that a lot of whether they should buy one product versus another is based on what social media is saying, what their friends are recommending, more than traditional marketing. So that's one area that we support, and we work with conglomerates on the digital roadmap. We run design thinking workshops to help them think about how to reimagine the business from the end consumer perspective, so that they actually think of new business model and disrupt and drive the disruption rather than wait to be disrupted. The other way is, like you talk about big data. A lot of these traditional companies do have a significant amount of data, but they still don't know how to capitalize that data to get valuable insight of it. So we have got, as you know, big data solutions that can enable them to drive valuable insight and from that understand how they can serve and their consumers better, and also to increase the revenue.
Correct.
Yep.
All right.
So these are just two areas that,
Sure.
that how can digital economy apply to conglomerates in today's
I'm going
economy.
to give you the last rest, but once we are back, it has always been about costs.
Yes.
For the ASEAN small, medium scale, even micro ones, enterprises, which also include, conglomerates sometimes where they form themselves and move up. How do you rationalize the cost of moving into digital economy? Because if they had the luxury of setting aside resources and finance, they would have put aside strictly for R&D, right? Research and development. But R&D has always been the bane of ASEAN SMEs, for example, maybe some of the conglomerates, new innovation on products or services. So, but with this digital economy, change is a given, creativity and innovation is a must.
Definitely.
So how would all this digital economy and innovation and creativity through solutions and better digital mapping of resources and galvanization means that they don't really have to kill themselves just to pay for it? So let's talk about that after the short break.
Yeah, definitely.
You're still watching a special recording of Agenda Wani right here at the World Economic Forum ASEAN 2017 in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. I'm still here with somebody who looks at strategic conglomerates for Southeast Asia, but look at the digital economy side of it, and how do you move our traditional conglomerates into the digital economy? Because if we don't, you're going to be submerged by the fourth industrial revolution. We want to ride on top, but to ride on top, it's also about cost.
Thanks, Arun. That is a very good point. So one of the key points as part of every transformation and any kind of investment, we work very closely with the conglomerates to build a business case for the transformation, because it has to be justified by returns. So there are two ways we look at it. One is looking at how it can help them increase the revenue. That is key. If you can, if that project or that transformation can bring about increase in revenues, that's of course a very compelling case for them to make forward. The other way is to look at how it can drive savings and through improving the efficiencies. So the other area that I have not touched on is that which is key as part of the digital transformation, is how we can help them reimagine their business processes. That is also one way to drive transformation, and it really can help cut down the inefficiencies and the waste that are existing today. And the holistic approach is important that we talked about earlier as well. When they look at it across the conglomerate, and the business case is built across the conglomerate versus just one of the entities, that will help to drive and improve the efficiencies. Some conglomerates have realized that, and they have put in place what we call a shared services framework for procurement and for HR, which helps to drive it, and that is one way of building the business case.
What if we see it from the value perspective? Because business is not about how much you have, but also if you put in 10, then you get back 1,000. That's a good business principle. How do you throw that proposition to the conglomerates?
So as you say, a lot of them are about making more money, right? That is the simple way of putting it forward. So if we can show that, for example, back to when I mentioned earlier about how they can improve the engagement and rethink the way they engage with their customers and channels, if that particular change or transformation can bring about X amount in several more millions, tens of millions in revenues from new channels, then that is the business case to move forward. So it's really important that each business case is customized for each conglomerate. Each one may have a different view of what is digital to them and what transformation they need to. And like I say, it's a journey. You can start from any one of these that we've discussed already.
I want to end with hope.
Yes.
What about the hope? You look at the best and the worst case.
Yes.
And what's the hope? If you can share maybe a story with us.
The hope of
you know, you've helped transition traditional into digital, and that's hope, right?
Yeah. So I can't mention names at this point in time.
Just
because a lot of them. Yeah, but for example, we are working with a large conglomerate. They have global presence today, mainly in the consumer products area, to transform their HR platform to move to the digital world, because they have realized the importance. They have about 40,000 employees worldwide.
Oh, that's big.
Yes, and what we are working with them is on their employee value proposition, because they realize that in order to attract young talent and the best talent in the market, and keep in mind these conglomerates are now competing against the cool companies,
the sexier, cooler names.
Yeah, exactly, right. The you know, and they have to think about, why should I get these millennials to join us? Me, a traditional company dealing in consumer products that doesn't have that cool image. So we are working with them, and not just from the technology point. It's also from change management. So that is important, and it's a journey. It will take a year to put in place and to transform that. But it's a journey that we're working through, not just from technology perspective, but also from the change management perspective.
There you go. ASEAN has the capability at 50 years old. Still not too old to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And we're moving towards digital economy, even for big conglomerates with 40,000 over employees. I'm going to propose to Bernice that Esrawani also want to join that journey. And maybe SAP can sponsor a special series just to look at conglomerates of ASEAN transitioning into digital economy.
Happy to discuss.
Discussion for another day. Yes. Thank you so much, and good luck for the rest of the session of World Economic Forum ASEAN. Thanks to you for watching. Send in your own views to all the social media platforms, Instagram, we have Twitter, Facebook, or download our iOS and Android application, and you can watch and also critique right on your favorite mobile gadget. This is me, Kamro Bahari, reporting for Agenda Awani with producer Linda and cameraman Rizal, right from Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Goodbye. Thank you so much.